My beloved soul, this is Archangel Michael speaking to you, and I want you to listen not with fear, not with doubt, but with your heart, because the message I bring is not about what you are losing, it is about what you are becoming, and you have been stronger than you realize, even in moments when you felt broken, even in days when you felt invisible, even in nights when you felt alone. I was there watching how you kept going when your energy was low, how you kept believing when nothing made sense, how you kept standing when everything inside you wanted to collapse, and I say this with truth, not everyone has the courage you have, not everyone can survive what you survived and still remain kind, still remain hopeful, still remain searching for light, and that itself is proof that you are protected, not from pain, but through pain, because protection does not mean a life without struggle. Protection means a life where struggle does not destroy your spirit, and your spirit is still alive, still curious, still growing, still dreaming, and that is why I speak to you now, not to scare you, not to promise you fantasy, but to remind you of your power, because the greatest enemy you face is not people, not circumstances, not time, it is the voice inside you that says you are not enough, that says you are too late, that says you have failed too many times, and I say to you, that voice is not truth. It is fear trying to protect you from disappointment, but fear cannot guide you into your destiny, only courage can, and courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to move forward despite it, and you have been doing that more than you realize, every time you chose patience instead of anger, every time you chose reflection instead of reaction, every time you chose growth instead of comfort, you were becoming stronger at a level you could not see yet, and strength does not always look like success. Sometimes strength looks like survival, like getting out of bed. On days you feel empty, like staying kind in a world that feels harsh, like continuing when results are slow, and these invisible victories are seen, they are recorded, they are shaping your future in ways that cannot be measured yet, and I want you to know this, you are not behind, you are not broken, you are not forgotten, you are in a process of becoming, and becoming is always messy, confusing, emotional, because identity is changing, and identity change feels like loss before it feels like freedom. Because you are letting go of who you were to make space for who you are meant to be, and that transition feels lonely sometimes, but loneliness does not mean abandonment, it means separation from old patterns, old limitations, old beliefs, and separation is necessary for growth, because you cannot rise while carrying what keeps you small, and I am here to tell you that you are being guided, not controlled, supported, not pushed, protected, not isolated, and your life is not random, your struggles are not meaningless, your delays are not punishment, they are shaping your character, your resilience, your emotional intelligence, and these qualities will protect you far more than any external shield ever could, because a strong mind cannot be manipulated, a calm heart cannot be destroyed, and a clear soul cannot be lost, and you are building all three slowly, quietly, through experience, through reflection, through pain, through hope, and I ask you now to trust your journey, even when you cannot see the destination, to trust your pace, even when others move faster, to trust your heart, even when your mind is full of doubts, because your path is not meant to look like anyone else's, your growth is not meant to follow someone else's timeline, and your destiny is not meant to satisfy the world, it is meant to fulfill your soul, and as long as you keep choosing honesty over comfort, courage over fear, patience over frustration, you are protected, not because nothing will go wrong, but because nothing will break you, and that is the highest form of protection, to become someone who can walk through any storm and still remain themselves, and you are becoming that person now, step by step, breath by breath, choice by choice, and I stand with you, not as a miracle, but as a reminder of the strength that already exists within you. There comes a moment in every life when silence becomes louder than noise, when the world around you keeps moving but something inside you stops and asks a question that cannot be ignored: am I really living the life I was meant to live? And Archangel Michael says this question is not weakness, it is awakening, because only those who are growing feel this inner disturbance. Those who are asleep remain comfortable. But you are no longer comfortable, you are no longer satisfied with surface happiness, you are no longer fulfilled by temporary pleasure, and this discomfort is sacred, because it means your soul is expanding beyond old limits, and expansion always feels uncomfortable at first. Just like muscles ache before they grow stronger, just like bones stretch before the body grows taller, your inner world is stretching right now, and stretching creates pressure, and pressure creates emotion, and emotion creates transformation, and this is why you feel different lately, more sensitive, more reflective, more aware, more tired of pretending, more honest with yourself, because illusions are falling away, and Archangel Michael says when illusions fall, reality feels heavy, but reality is where true power exists, because in reality you can act, you can change, you can choose, while in illusion you only dream, and dreaming without action slowly becomes suffering. Because the gap between who you are and who you want to be keeps increasing, and that gap creates pain, but pain is not punishment, pain is feedback, it is life telling you that growth is required, not tomorrow, not someday, but now, and most people run from this message, they distract themselves, they numb themselves, they blame others. They scroll endlessly, they stay busy to avoid listening, but you are listening, and that is why this message reaches you again and again, because your awareness has been activated. And once awareness is activated, life cannot return to unconsciousness, you cannot unsee what you now see. You cannot unknow what you now understand, and this is the point of no return, the point where excuses start feeling hollow, where old habits start feeling empty, where old goals start feeling meaningless, and Archangel Michael says this is the moment where identity begins to shift, because identity is not what you say about yourself, identity is what you tolerate, what you repeat, what you allow, what you accept, and your tolerance is changing. You no longer tolerate disrespect, you no longer tolerate wasting time, you no longer tolerate lying to yourself, and this change may feel lonely, because not everyone around you is growing at the same speed, not everyone understands your silence, your distance, your seriousness, your reflection, but growth often requires separation, not from people, we're comfortable with less. And letting go of old identity feels like grief, because you are saying goodbye to a familiar self, even if that self was unhappy, even if that self was stuck, it was still you, and saying goodbye to yourself feels emotional, because it is like losing a part of your past. But Archangel Michael says do not confuse grief with failure. Grief is part of evolution. It means something is ending so something deeper can begin, and endings are not signs of weakness, they are signs of readiness. Because only those who are ready can release what no longer serves them, and you are releasing silently, old expectations, old comparisons, old fears, old attachments, and this release creates space, and space creates clarity, and clarity creates direction, and direction creates momentum, and momentum creates confidence, and confidence creates discipline, and discipline creates transformation, and transformation creates a new life, not overnight, not magically, but naturally, because real change is organic. It grows slowly like roots underground, invisible to others, but strong enough to hold an entire future. And Archangel Michael says this is why you must not compare your journey with anyone else, because you do not see their roots, you only see their results, and results are misleading, because some results are built on fragile foundations, on validation, on ego, on shortcuts, on external approval, and those foundations collapse easily. But your foundation is being built on self-awareness, on emotional maturity, on patience, on self-respect, on inner discipline, and this foundation takes longer, but it lasts. Longer, and lasting is more valuable than shining, because shining fades, but stability remains, and stability creates peace, and peace is the highest form of success, because a peaceful person cannot be manipulated, cannot be rushed, cannot be pressured, cannot be controlled. They move at their own pace, they choose their own values, they define their own version of fulfillment, and this inner sovereignty is what you are developing now. The ability to govern your own mind, your own emotions, your own reactions, your own desires, and this is not easy, because the mind is addicted to distraction, to drama, to comparison, to instant gratification, and you are slowly withdrawing from these addictions, and withdrawal feels uncomfortable, it feels empty, it feels boring, it feels slow, but emptiness is not lack, emptiness is space, and space is where new identity forms, new habits form, new vision forms. And Archangel Michael says protect this space, do not rush to fill it with noise, do not escape it with entertainment, do not numb it with pleasure, sit with it, feel it, explore it, because in this silence you will meet yourself, not the version shaped by society, not the version shaped by fear, but the version shaped by truth, and truth is always quieter than illusion, but stronger than it, because truth does not need validation, it simply exists, and when you align with truth, your decisions become simpler, your priorities become clearer, your energy becomes more focused, and your life becomes less chaotic, not because problems disappear, but because you stop creating unnecessary ones, and this is real growth, not dramatic, not viral, not inspirational quotes, but daily internal alignment, the choice to act in harmony with your values even when it is inconvenient, even when it is slow, even when nobody notices. And Archangel Michael says these unnoticed actions are the ones that shape destiny. Not big moments, not emotional speeches, but boring consistency, because consistency rewires the nervous system, and a rewired nervous system responds to life differently. It does not panic easily, it does not overreact, it does not collapse under stress, it does not chase validation, it does not depend on outcomes, it stays centered, and centered people create stable futures, because they are not driven by fear or excitement, they are guided by intention. And intention is powerful because it gives direction to energy, and energy with direction becomes creation, and creation is the highest expression of human potential, to create meaning, to create value, to create growth, to create alignment, and you are stepping into this role now, from consumer to creator, from reactor to architect, from follower to leader of your own life, and leadership begins with self, the ability to lead your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, your impulses, your fears. And this inner leadership is what Archangel Michael stands for, not external authority, but internal mastery. Because a person who can master themselves does not need to control the world, they can adapt to it, shape it, influence it, without losing themselves in it, and this is why your journey feels different now, less about chasing, more about choosing, less about proving, more about becoming, less about speed, more about depth, because depth creates roots, and roots create resilience, and resilience creates freedom. And freedom is not the absence of responsibility, it is the ability to choose. Responsibility. Consciously, without resentment, without fear, without escape, and this is what you are learning now, to carry your life with awareness, not as a burden, but as a sacred project, something you design intentionally, patiently, honestly, and this design will not impress everyone, but it will fulfill you, and fulfillment is rare, because most people live according to expectations, not truth. But you are learning to listen to your inner voice, even when it is quiet, even when it is uncertain, even when it challenges comfort, and this listening is the beginning of wisdom, because wisdom is not knowledge, it is alignment between who you are and how you live, and when that alignment grows, life becomes simpler, not easier, but clearer. And clarity is peace, because when you know who you are, you stop searching everywhere else, and this is the real protection Archangel Michael offers, not protection from pain, but protection from losing yourself, because as long as you remain connected to your truth, nothing external can truly destroy you. It can challenge you, delay you, test you, but it cannot erase you, because you are becoming rooted in something deeper than circumstances, deeper than opinions, deeper than fear. You are becoming rooted in self-awareness, and self-awareness is the strongest foundation any human can have, because from it comes conscious choice, and from conscious choice comes a life that feels meaningful, grounded, and genuinely your own. Sometimes the hardest battle is not against the world, but against the invisible expectations you carry inside yourself, the standards you never consciously chose, the timelines you never agreed to, the pressure to become something before you even understand who you truly are. And Archangel Michael says this inner pressure is one of the greatest sources of suffering in modern life. Because it disconnects you from your natural rhythm, it makes you rush growth, it makes you compare chapters, it makes you treat life like a competition instead of a journey, and when life becomes a race, you stop feeling it, you stop appreciating small victories, you stop recognizing inner progress, and you only measure yourself by external milestones, money, relationships, status, recognition. But these milestones are shallow indicators of fulfillment, because they can exist without peace, without alignment, without meaning. And many people achieve everything they thought they wanted and still feel empty, because the real hunger was never for success, it was for significance, for the feeling that their existence matters beyond survival, beyond consumption, beyond validation, and this hunger cannot be satisfied by external achievements alone. It requires internal coherence, the sense that your actions, values, and identity are moving in the same direction, and Archangel Michael says when these three are aligned, life feels lighter, even if challenges remain, because struggle with meaning feels different than struggle without it. Meaningful struggle feels purposeful, while meaningless struggle feels exhausting, and most burnout comes not from hard work, but from working toward goals that do not reflect your true values, and this is why you feel tired even when you are doing well, because your energy is being spent in directions that do not nourish your soul, and the soul is not nourished by approval. It is nourished by authenticity, by expression, by growth, by truth, and truth is often inconvenient, because it forces you to admit what is no longer working, what you have outgrown, what you are afraid to release, and releasing is difficult because identity forms around attachment. You attach to roles, to relationships, to habits, to labels, and these attachments become familiar, even if they are painful, and the mind prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar growth, because growth requires uncertainty, and uncertainty triggers fear. But Archangel Michael says fear is not a warning to stop, it is a signal that you are approaching the edge of your comfort zone, and growth always happens at the edge, never in the center of safety, never in repetition, never in stagnation, and the edge feels unstable, because you are standing between who you were and who you are becoming. And this in-between state is emotionally confusing, because you no longer resonate with the past, but you do not yet fully recognize the future, and this creates a sense of emptiness, of disorientation, of not belonging anywhere, and many people mistake this phase for failure, but it is actually transition, the psychological death of an old self, and psychological rebirth of a new one, and rebirth is always uncomfortable, because something must dissolve before something else can emerge, and dissolution feels like loss, even if what you are losing is limitation, because limitation was still identity. And losing identity feels like losing ground, but Archangel Michael says you are not losing ground. You are shedding weight, and shedding weight allows you to move differently, think differently, choose differently, and these new choices slowly build a new narrative about who you are, not based on fear, but based on intention, and intention is powerful because it gives you authorship over your life, instead of living as a reaction to circumstances, you begin to live as a response to values. And this shift from reaction to response is subtle but transformative, because reaction is automatic, emotional, unconscious, while response is deliberate, reflective, conscious, and conscious living is what creates inner stability, because you stop being controlled by impulses, by moods, by external triggers, and you begin to act from inner clarity. And clarity does not mean certainty, it means honesty, the honesty to admit what you feel, what you want, what you fear, what you need, without judgment, without suppression, without denial, and this honesty creates emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence creates resilience, because you no longer fight your inner world, you understand it, you listen to it, you work with it, and this cooperation between mind and heart is rare, because most people are either ruled by logic or dominated by emotion. But balance is created when logic and emotion collaborate, not compete, and Archangel Michael says this balance is the foundation of wisdom, because wisdom is not cold rationality, and it is not blind feeling, it is the ability to hold complexity without collapsing into extremes, to accept uncertainty without becoming anxious, to experience pain without becoming bitter, to experience success without becoming arrogant, and this emotional maturity is what protects you from life's chaos, because chaos is inevitable, but suffering is optional, and suffering increases when resistance increases, when you resist change, resist loss, resist reality, resist growth. And acceptance does not mean passivity, it means understanding what is happening without fighting it emotionally, and this understanding allows you to act effectively, because energy is not wasted on denial, and denial drains more energy than action, because it creates internal conflict, and internal conflict manifests as stress, anxiety, confusion, exhaustion, and this is why many people feel tired even when they do nothing, because their mind is constantly fighting reality. And Archangel Michael says the mind was never designed to fight reality, it was designed. Interpret it, learn from it, and adapt to it. And when the mind becomes an enemy of reality, life becomes a battlefield, but when the mind becomes a student of reality, life becomes a teacher, and teachers do not punish, they instruct, and every challenge carries instruction, not in words, but in experience, and experience is the deepest form of knowledge, because it rewires perception, not just thought. And perception determines behavior, and behavior determines destiny, and this is why small shifts in perception create massive changes over time, because you begin to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles, you begin to see lessons where you once saw injustice, you begin to see growth where you once saw loss. And this does not mean you become naive or blind to pain, it means you become capable of integrating pain into your evolution, instead of being crushed by it, and integration is the highest form of healing, because you are not trying to erase the past, you are transforming its meaning, and meaning shapes identity, and identity shapes future.